3:38 a.m. The Red Sea. The sky is absolute black. No moon. The air is thick and hot and heavy with salt, pressing down on water that barely moves. Visibility from the surface is near zero. The stars above are brilliant and cold and impossibly far away. And somewhere in the darkness, moving fast and low, something was coming. The Houthis had been planning this moment for 11 months, inside a fortified operations center buried beneath a residential district in Sana'a. A commander sat before a display that tracked what he believed was a lone American destroyer operating in the southern Red Sea, 62 miles west of the Yemeni coast. The ship was USS Carney, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. Flight 2, A variant, 155 meters of American naval engineering, displacing 9,000 tons. She had been on station in the Red Sea for 41 days, part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, the multinational naval task force assigned to protect commercial shipping in one of the world's most critical maritime corridors. The Houthis had studied her. They had tracked her patrol patterns from the coastal hills with optical sensors. They had monitored her radar emissions, or rather, the absence of them, because Carney had been operating with intermittent emissions control to reduce her electronic signature. They had cataloged her apparent defensive response times based on previous intercept attempts, and they had concluded, after 11 months of preparation and analysis, that they had found the formula that would finally achieve what no adversary had accomplished in decades of conflict with the United States Navy. The attack package was the largest the Houthis had ever assembled. 14 Samad-3 long-range attack drones launched from dispersed sites across northern Yemen, programmed to arrive simultaneously from 4 separate compass bearings to saturate close-in defense systems. 8 Quds-1 cruise missiles, Iranian-supplied, terrain-following, sea-skimming at low altitude, launched from mobile platforms near Al-Hudaydah, timed to arrive in the same 60-second window as the drones. 4 ASEF anti-ship ballistic missiles, modified versions of Iranian Fateh 110 derivatives, fired on a compressed trajectory from mobile launchers in the Hudaydah Governorate, designed to arrive in a near-vertical terminal dive that would defeat radar coverage from below the ship's minimum elevation angle. And finally, 6 high-speed suicide boats packed with explosives and guided by remote operators already deployed into the water hours earlier, lurking dark and quiet in an intercept position directly in Carney's patrol path. 32 separate attack elements, all of them converging on a single point, all of them timed to arrive within 60 seconds of each other. The Houthi commander had given this operation a name that translated from Arabic as the breaking wave. He had briefed his Iranian advisors with confidence. He had told them that this was the night that changed everything. He had made 5 catastrophic mistakes. First mistake, USS Carney was not alone. The Houthis had detected one ship. Their surveillance assets, a combination of commercial maritime tracking data, coastal observation posts, and a single reconnaissance drone, had given them a picture of the Red Sea that was accurate as far as it went. What it did not show them was what was beneath the surface. USS Florida, an Ohio-class guided missile submarine, one of 4 submarines converted from ballistic missile carriers into platforms carrying 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, was running submerged 68 miles north of Carney's position, in direct secure communication with the destroyer and with 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. And USS Cheyenne, a Los Angeles-class attack submarine, was positioned 12 miles off the Yemeni coast in water shallow enough to feel dangerous, running silent, patient, tracking every radar emission and every radio transmission from the Houthi coastal zone for 16 consecutive days. Second mistake, the drones were already being tracked. The E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft, launched from USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, operating in the northern Red Sea 200 miles from Carney, had detected the Samad-3 drone launch signatures at the moment of takeoff. long before the drones had completed their initial climb-out phase over Yemen. The E-2D's AN/APS-145 radar can track over 2,000 targets simultaneously at ranges exceeding 500 kilometers. It had been watching Yemen for 6 hours. The moment the first drone engine ignited, the E-2D's crew had a track. Within 45 seconds, the track data was on Carney's tactical display, on the Eisenhower's Combat Information Center screens, and in the Joint Operations Watch floor at 5th Fleet. Carney's crew was not reacting to a surprise. They were watching a threat develop from birth. Third mistake. The cruise missiles were detected at launch. The Quds-1 cruise missiles that the Houthis relied on to sea-skim below radar coverage had one vulnerability that Iranian engineers had never fully solved: their launch profile. The moment they were fired, they climbed briefly before descending to sea-skimming altitude. That brief climb, lasting between 8 and 12 seconds, was enough. A P-8 Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft orbiting at altitude over the southern Red Sea, operating its AN/APS-154 Advanced Airborne Sensor, detected all 8 launch events within 3 seconds of each other. The track data was uplinked instantly. Carney and every other U.S. asset in the theater had the cruise missile firing positions within 40 seconds of launch. Fourth mistake. The suicide boats had been under surveillance for 4 hours. USS Cheyenne had detected the acoustic signatures of the 6 high-speed Houthi boats when they were deployed into the water at 11:30 p.m., almost 4 hours before the attack commenced. The submarine's sonar operators had classified them, tracked them, and transmitted their positions to Carney and to the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter that Carney had launched on an armed patrol sortie at midnight, specifically in response to Cheyenne's contact reports. When the attack began, Carney already knew exactly where the suicide boats were. Fifth mistake. The ballistic missiles were the most dangerous element of the attack, and the Houthis had revealed them too early. The SF ballistic missiles required their mobile launchers to be emplaced and aimed using a GPS survey process that took approximately 40 minutes. During those 40 minutes, the launchers emitted specific electronic signatures that U.S. signals intelligence satellites had learned to recognize. By the time the launchers fired, their positions had been known to U.S. strike planners for 37 minutes. 3 JDAM-tipped bombs, preloaded into waiting FA-18 Super Hornets aboard USS Eisenhower, had already been assigned those exact coordinates. What happened in the next 26 minutes was not a battle. It was the most complete defensive and offensive response the United States military had ever executed against the Houthi threat. At 3:38 a.m., the attack was fully in motion. 14 drones airborne, 8 cruise missiles sea-skimming south, 4 ballistic missiles climbing on steep compressed trajectories, 6 suicide boats accelerating toward Carney's patrol corridor. The Houthi commander watched his display and believed he was watching the greatest operation in his movement's history. USS Carney moved first. Her Aegis combat system had already built engagement solutions on every inbound contact. The system did not need human authorization for each individual intercept. The rules of engagement under which Carney operated allowed full autonomous engagement of identified anti-ship threats. The Aegis was already deciding, already prioritizing, already sequencing. The most dangerous threats, the ballistic missiles arriving fastest and in a near-vertical terminal dive, were engaged first. 3 SM-2 Block 3C missiles left Carney's forward VLS cells in a compressed salvo, reaching upward toward the ASEF ballistic missiles at the top of their arcs. The SM-2 Block 3C is not primarily a ballistic missile interceptor, but at the compressed trajectory and relatively modest velocity of a Fateh 110 derivative, it is more than adequate. The first SM-2 impacted a ballistic missile at 41,000 feet, converting it into an expanding debris cloud over international waters. The second killed another. The third missed, its kill vehicle passing just outside lethal radius, and was immediately followed by a fourth SM-2 that achieved the kill. 3 of 4 ballistic missiles destroyed. The fourth descended and was engaged by the Phalanx CYWS at terminal range, its warhead detonating in the water 40 meters from Carney's hull in a geyser of white spray that rocked the ship but caused no damage. The cruise missiles were next. Carney's forward standard missile cells were already reloading sequences when the first Quds-1 contacts crossed inside 50 miles. 6 SM-2s fired in 2 salvos of 3, each targeting a different sector of the approaching cruise missile spread. The Aegis fire control system assigned each missile to a track with overlapping engagement corridors. If the primary shot missed, a secondary was already computed and ready. 5 Quds-1 cruise missiles were killed by SM-2 in the outer engagement zone. 3 more penetrated to close range. 2 were taken by the NATO Sea Sparrow short-range missiles. 1 reached the Phalanx CIWWS engagement range and was destroyed by 20mm tungsten at a distance of 300 meters from the ship's bow. 0 cruise missile hits. The drone swarm was handled by a combination of systems. 2 of the FA-18 Super Hornets from Eisenhower that had been redirected to Carney's area of operations upon the E-2D's detection began working the drone contacts with AIM-9X Sidewinder missiles, picking off the faster and higher Samad-3 models. Carney's own evolved Sea Sparrow missiles engaged the lower and slower contacts. The rolling airframe missile launcher on the ship's stern fired a continuous sequence against the drones that approached from the aft sector. 12 of 14 drones were destroyed. The 13th lost its navigation signal in the electromagnetic environment created by Carney's AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite and flew into the sea 3 miles from the ship. The 14th was engaged and destroyed by the Phalanx at a range of 200 meters. It detonated in a fireball that was clearly visible from Carney's bridge but caused no damage. 0 drone hits. The 6 suicide boats were the last element. The MH-60R Seahawk helicopter that had been on patrol since midnight was already in position. Its crew had 4 boats in their FLIR sight when Carney gave weapons free. 4 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles destroyed 4 boats simultaneously. The explosions tearing across the dark water in a ragged line of orange fire. The remaining 2 boats accelerated to maximum speed, approximately 45 knots, and attempted to close the remaining distance to Carney. The helicopter broke left, reacquired, and killed 1 with a 5th Hellfire. The last boat was engaged by Carney's own Mark 38 machine gun system, a 25mm chain gun, and was destroyed at a range of 800 meters. 0 suicide boat impacts. USS Carney had just absorbed the largest coordinated Houthi attack ever launched against a U.S. naval vessel. 32 attack elements, every single one destroyed before impact. 0 American sailors wounded. 0 damage to the ship. Now the United States answered. The answer had been authorized and planned before the first Houthi drone left the ground. At 3:44 a.m., 6 minutes after the attack began, USS Florida received the execute order from 5th Fleet. Her vertical launch system, 154 cells deep, opened and began firing. The Ohio-class submarine's Tomahawk salvo was staggered for time-on-target coordination with the airstrikes already inbound. 41 Tomahawks left USS Florida's tubes in a sustained firing sequence, their turbofan engines igniting as they cleared the water, climbing to cruise altitude and turning east toward the Yemeni coast. Simultaneously, the 2 FA-18 Super Hornets that had been vectored to Carney's defense were already turning back toward the Yemeni coast with new targeting coordinates uplinked from the E-2D. The 3 mobile ballistic missile launchers, whose positions had been known for 37 minutes, were their first targets. 6 JDAM GPS-guided bombs separated from the aircraft at medium altitude and descended through the darkness. All 3 launcher vehicles, along with their crew positions, their support trucks, and the portable communications equipment that had been directing the attack, were destroyed in simultaneous strikes. Nothing at those three coordinates survived. At 3:52 a.m., 4 more Super Hornets launched from USS Eisenhower and turned south. They were armed with AGM-154, JSOW glide weapons, and AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles. Their targets were the Houthi coastal radar sites between Al Hudaydah and the Yemeni coast that had been directing the cruise missile attack. 2 active radar stations, whose emissions had been logged, classified, and targeted over the previous 16 days of P-8 Poseidon surveillance operations. The HARM missiles reached the radar sites at the speed of sound and ended their emissions permanently. At 3:58 a.m., the Tomahawks began arriving over Yemen. The Houthi Operations Center in Sana'a, the fortified facility buried beneath a residential district from which the attack had been commanded, was hit by 4 Tomahawks in a sequenced strike, designed to collapse the structure progressively. The first 2 impacted the communications antenna arrays on the roof. The third impacted the main entrance and support structure. The fourth impacted after a deliberate 12-second delay to allow the first 3 impacts to vent the pressure before the penetrating warhead drove deepest into the reinforced structure. The building was destroyed. The Al Hudaydah cruise missile launch sites, the mobile platforms from which the Quds-1 missiles had been fired, were hit by 6 Tomahawks each. The vehicles had attempted to relocate after firing, following standard Houthi post-launch procedure. But USS Cheyenne's passive sonar had tracked their movement acoustically. The distinctive sound of large diesel truck engines moving on coastal roads was detectable at range in the quiet pre-dawn environment. Their new positions had been relayed in real time. The Tomahawks were retargeted in flight via the 2-way data link that Block 4 Tomahawks carry. The vehicles were destroyed at their new locations. The drone launch sites, 6 dispersed positions across northern Yemen from which the Samad 3 drones had been launched, were each struck by 2 Tomahawks. The pre-surveyed concrete launch pads, the ground control stations, the fuel and electronics storage buildings, gone. At 4:19 a.m., 2 B-1B Lancer bombers that had been orbiting at high altitude over the Red Sea since midnight, on a mission that CENTCOM had classified as a precautionary deterrence posture and which the Houthis had no knowledge of, descended to their weapons release altitude and began their attack runs. Each B-1B carried 24 GBU-31 JDAM bombs in its 3 internal weapons bays. Their targets were the Houthi naval facilities at Ras Isa port, the small harbor complex from which the suicide boats had been staged and from which a second wave of suicide boats was assessed to be preparing for launch. The B-1Bs released 22 JDAMs in a single coordinated pass. The Ras Isa facility, 4 boat sheds, a pier structure, a fuel point, and a small workshop building, was destroyed completely. The full accounting, compiled by CENTCOM and 5th Fleet by 9 a.m. on the same morning. 32 Houthi attack elements launched. 32 destroyed before impact. 0 hits on USS Carney. 0 American casualties. 0 ship damage. In response, the Houthi ballistic missile launch capability in the Hudaydah Governorate reduced by an estimated 67%. 3 mobile ballistic missile launcher vehicles destroyed. 6 drone launch sites destroyed. 2 coastal radar stations eliminated. The main Houthi Maritime Attack Command Center in Sana'a destroyed. Ras Isa port facility destroyed. 8 Quds, 1 cruise missile mobile launcher vehicles destroyed. Estimated Houthi personnel killed in the counter-strikes, 117. USS Carney resumed her patrol pattern at 4:31 a.m. The Seahawk helicopter landed, was refueled, and was back in the air within 40 minutes. The ship's crew stood down from battle stations at 4:45 a.m. and resumed normal watch rotations. The officer of the deck entered a single line in the ship's log. Completed defense of station. All personnel accounted for. Ship fully operational. In the operations center beneath Sana'a, there was nothing. The communications went silent at 3:58 a.m. and did not resume. The commander who had named his operation the Breaking Wave had overestimated his forces, underestimated his adversary, and paid for both errors with everything he had built over 11 months. In Bahrain, the 5th Fleet commander reviewed the battle damage assessment over his morning coffee and sent a single message to the crews of all units that had participated in the night's operation. The message was 3 words: "Well done. Continue." On the Red Sea, the sun rose over water that was free, open, and safe for commercial shipping, as it had been the previous morning, and as it would be the following morning. The vigil that USS Carney and her crew maintained was not glamorous. It was not celebrated. It was long, it was exhausting, and it placed them in harm's way every single night. But they stood it, as American sailors have always stood their watches, on every ocean, in every condition, through every provocation and every threat. This is what happens when you attack a United States Navy destroyer in international waters. You do not find a vulnerable ship sailing alone. You find a ship that is the visible tip of an invisible iceberg. Submarines tracking your boats, patrol aircraft logging your launch sites, electronic warfare systems mapping your radar emissions, carrier strike groups with armed aircraft already airborne and already vectoring. You find a defensive machine of such depth and redundancy that 32 simultaneous attacks achieve nothing except the destruction of every asset you used to launch them. You find an answer arriving before your attack has even finished. Tomahawks in the air before your last cruise missile has been destroyed. Bombs already assigned to coordinates you thought were secret. The Red Sea is not Houthi waters. It is not Iranian waters. It is an international waterway, one of the most important on Earth, and the United States Navy has patrolled it, protected it, and kept it open for the commerce of free nations for generations. On this night, at 3:38 a.m. in total darkness, in the thick, hot air of the Red Sea, the United States Navy proved once again that this will not change. 32 attacks, 26 minutes, 0 hits, and a lesson written in fire and precision and the professional silence of sailors who stood their watch, fought their fight, and went back to work before the sun came up.